7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and open up the hearing for the Baldwin City CDBG Grant 23 CVR 001 for COVID resiliency business grants. Is there anybody from the public like to speak to this? Seeing none, we will close public comment. And do we need a motion to approve the closeout or not?
I don't think so. You might want to.
We usually don't. Okay. All right. We'll close that hearing and we'll open up, call to order the regular council meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Is there anybody here from the public like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none. Special reports and presentations. Golf Association, you're up first.
Thank you for having me. My name is Baldwincity, president of the Baldwin Golf Association. I come here at least once a year, but always when I get here.
There you go.
Better? Okay. Come here once a year and update the council on the past season, really. So I'll do that tonight, and then I've got one leave behind for you too, but not a big deal. I think we've shared previously our finances for the year, but basically the last couple of years, the Golf Association has been trending between $45,000 and $50,000 budget. We've been able to do a lot of things with the money, including buying equipment like a mower, those kinds of things. We're very proud of a couple of scholarships that we give every year to high school kids, two $1,000 scholarships. That's been really rewarding for all of us and for the kids. We have a lot of kind of community service highlights, I guess we call them, for lack of a better word. The last 2, 3, 4 years, we've really focused on getting people feet on the ground, number of people on the ground, and we have a number of events out there. I'll go through a few of those, but obviously Baker and Baldwin High School cross-country teams run out there, practice out there periodically. The 4th of July event continues to be a great event for our community. By Rex accounts, we had 8,100 patrons on the ground this past July, so that's a really good event for us. We've been able to donate some money to the working with the Santa Fe Historical Society on parking during the 4th of July event. We were able to share some revenue with them. We have Caw Valley Junior Golf tournaments out there, at least one a year, it seems like. Both the Baldwin High School golf teams practice out there. The girls team was in the second year last year, placed 6th at state, if I'm not mistaken, and we all know some of those athletes on that team, and that's a fun thing to see, and they play out there. So we're a member of the chamber. Talked about scholarships already. I'm gonna leave behind just kind of a sheet with a number of goals and improvements and things we want to make out there, just for really for visibility for the council members. But some of the immediate things that we're looking at doing out there include we've ordered new cups, flags, and sticks. We'll get those installed here before the season starts. We did purchase a new mower last year. We were able to, because of the really, if I'm being honest, because of the 4th of July event, we were able to pay cash for that mower, which which was nice to be able to do. But so we bought the new mower last year. We want to replace our yardage markers, just kind of some of those maintenance kinds of things. Our tee boxes are in terrible repair. One of the things that we're going to do, we're going to try to be strategic about it, but over the next, could be a decade, we're going to start strategically enhancing tee box areas, whether that's a concrete pad and a synthetic fabric that'll receive a tee, something like that. We're really going to try to do that. We're going to start this year on Workday, which is the first weekend of April, and try to put one of those in. We've had a couple of maintenance issues out there. Obviously, we've got plumbing in there. We've got renters in there. It's a good thing, sharing that revenue. But some of those things all cost money. We continue to maintain that parking lot. It doesn't seem no matter how much gravel we throw on that thing, it needs more every year. But that's just kind of part of doing business, we think. We're also going to clear some brush on 4. We've got some what I'm calling weak spots on the course in terms of allowing vehicles on the course that maybe shouldn't be there. So we're going to try to tighten that up. Nothing that affects a walker or anybody that goes out there regularly now, but just some vehicle things. In terms of some numbers, we had 96 individual members out there this past season, which is up a little bit from the year before. We have about 20 corporate members, which is kind of the backbone of much of our financing, but it's still a good deal for those corporate members, including the city, USD 348 in Baker. So it's continue to appreciate that support. On men's night in 23, I think we usually get in around 24, 25 weeks. In 23, our average was 50.5 golfers a night. In 24, we averaged 57. It's a good thing. We're getting some youth out there. We're probably going to be looking at coming up with some sort of a cart shed. We have people on a waiting list, and it's a good problem to have. But anyway, so back to a couple of numbers. I already mentioned probably 8,100 people on the 4th of July. We figure there's another, and I don't think this is stretching it, another 8,000 between. I think there's at least 6 cross-country meets out there a year that are heavily attended. So the grounds are getting used, and then when you figure men's night and all the rentals, you figure that's probably another couple thousand people that hit that ground. So we think we're doing a good job of managing the property, and we appreciate the lease and all of that that we have with the city, and obviously if there's any issues, I know you guys will let us know. But that's really kind of the recap I have. Just a quick blip on some board news. Andy Parks, who many of you know, has bowed out after volunteering for many years. We've replaced him with Bruce Nuenswander, who's a longtime member out there. He also does our mowing, and so that's a good fit. And we also have brought Brad Scraper on as an additional board member at large. We're still looking for maybe if we could get somebody younger in there. We had a couple candidates, and neither one of them are quite ready to do it, but we'll get there. So really that's it. I'm gonna rather than go through all of the kind of the projects that we're looking at, I'm gonna leave behind just a list of the things that we're kind of envisioning in the next year to, it could be 8-10 years down the road, including like maybe putting a new patio south of the clubhouse, something like that. It really kind of plus up the building a little bit. So happy to take any questions that anybody has, but that's kind of the state of BGA for 24. And again, appreciate the partnership, and everything that we work together on.
Oh, I have a question. Would the BGA be interested? I mean, we chip and seal roads every single year.
Right.
So would the BGA at all be interested in chip and sealing the parking lot to get more of a hard surface style in there to minimize your maintenance cost?
I mean, I guess if it worked out for the city to do that,
I'm just thinking of alternative, versus laying
yeah,
concrete.
no, I
and
mean,
all that.
and
Just something to look at.
yeah, I'm trying to think what we throw at that. I mean, we probably throw $1,000 of gravel at it every year or something like that. But
I don't even know what that costs. It's just spitballing.
right,
ideas.
yeah, no, I'm trying to think what I'm trying to think of the downside. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but we could certainly, yeah, let's explore it.
Any other questions for Paul? All right.
Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you guys do, Paul. We appreciate it, and I know all the golfers appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Next, the GRDA presentation, KMEA.
Well, hello again. Hello. Good seeing you guys.
You ready for this?
You bet. Let's see. It might have been perfect. Okay. Neil Daney with KMEA, and I was here a couple months ago. We talked about large-scale solar, and we'd mentioned the GRDA project that is going to be up for renewal. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. If you go to the next slide, or do you have a clicker, or do you just want me to? Okay, got it. No worries. So your energy bill, when you look at your energy bill every month, it's really broken down into three components. You have your capacity or demand. We use those words interchangeably. Energy and transmission. So your demand is the ability to produce energy. That can be your power plant, or that can be GRDA, that can be your WAPA federal hydro, anything that comes with the capacity or the ability to produce energy. And then you have your physical energy, which comes from your power plant. When you guys produce energy, it can come from all different resources down there: nuclear, natural gas, coal, hydro. And then you have the transmission, which is the bulk system, which you're driving by and you see those high voltage lines, gets it to the distribution level, and then gets it to the end users. So you guys actually pay a transmission charge on the bulk system and on the distribution system. And stop me if you guys have any questions along the way, please. And so when you look at your capacity position, all entities, not just the city of Baldwin City, but all of our KMEA member cities, have to carry enough capacity to cover their peak load plus 15% additional reserves. And so your internal generation is tested yearly, and Jeff and the crew do a great job of doing that. And they're doing some changes in 26, 27, where they're doing performance-based accreditation. That's what PBA stands for. Where on the heels of Winter Storm Uri, SPP, Southwest Power Pool, was wanting ways to enhance what participants were offering into the market. And so there's going to be a kind of a grading scale on the availability of your units. The units that are available a lot of the times won't get a penalty, but the units that are available less will get a penalty. We don't know what that is. In our models, we use anywhere from 10 to 20%, just depending on the communities and kind of a history of reports. So that's kind of a wild card. So currently GRDA, WAPA, and SPA all come with reserves and capacity values 100%. And then with intermittent resources like wind and solar, you're going to see anywhere from 20 to 40, 45%, just because it's not available all the time, just like your thermal unit. So they give a lower accreditation value. So you can see in 24, you guys had a little bit of excess a little over 100 kW, and you were transferring that, selling that excess to other KMEA members. When we go to 2027, and this is using 1.5 megawatt GRDA allocation, you have a little bit of excess, like 1.5 megawatts, and that's assuming that you guys keep all your 7 internal units. We have 3 megawatts of community solar in there, and then you guys signed on for the 1 megawatt of large scale. So that's 2 additional megawatts of community solar, and then GRD at 1.5, and it's getting marginally thin on capacity. Any questions on that?
Not yet.
Okay.
We usually wait till the end.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
I have a list of things I've been writing.
Ambush. No. So this is looking at slightly different, but you guys have some units. I've talking to Glenn and Jeff. Some of these units are very, very old. So unit 4, 5, and 6, I think the decision was made a few years ago when there were decisions that were put upon us to do catalysts to make them more cleaner. The decision was made years ago not to convert engine 4, 5, and 6. So sitting here today, what we think that SPP's goal is any unit that is not RICE compliant, they're eventually wanting to kind of phase those out of the footprint and not counting them as capacity. That's what we believe sitting here today. So you can see that those units 4, 5, and 6, we've just got them kind of degraded down as we get closer to 2030. We don't know what those values are going to be, or we'll give them a major haircut. Those could be close to those values, they could be 0. We just don't know sitting here today. So, the ones that are retrofitted, you can count those, and then Jeff and his team does a good job of keeping them operational and running, and that will bode well as you guys move forward in the future, because there is a penalty if you don't have them available and offered in the market all the time. So, so this is just another way of looking at it. This is using GRDA at, you currently have a 3 megawatt allocation, and this is using 2 on this one. And you can see that as we get closer out to 28, 29, it gets kind of thin on the capacity position. So
Just real quick before we move on to this, why on our new ones, the Cat 9 and 10, does it go from 2 to 1.8 over 1 year?
Yeah, so that's when we hit that 26 time period. That's when that performance-based accreditation goes in at SPP.
Okay.
So we're just assuming that we're going to give a 10% haircut to those guys, just being conservative. Okay. Yep.
So I've got a question on the current GDRA capacity of 3 megawatts. I thought that came with the 15% reserve as well.
It does.
So why isn't 345 represented in this? Because it's really more than 3. It's 3.45.
Yeah, it's in the calculation. It's not represented here, but it is in the calculation.
Okay.
You get credit for that.
Right. So I just want to make sure we're seeing how much excess we actually have. And okay.
Yep.
And the other thing about the excess capacity, we sell it on, I assume, on the open market, similar to the day ahead. I don't know how you do that, but do we break even? Do we lose money? Do we make money? And I guess it's going to come down to a question asked later on how we figure out how much we're paying for our current capacity through the GRDA contract.
Mm-hmm.
So do we lose money when we take excess and sell it to other entities?
So what we do is we really don't look at it as your GRDA capacity that you're selling. We just put all the capacity into kind of a bucket,
right,
and then come up with a number. You guys have been relatively long, I guess, the last probably, I don't know if you've been short at all, but relatively a little megawatt or 2 long or marginally thin like you are now. So that gets sold to other EMP1 members, And right now, the market for that is like $2.25 a kW month, or a little over $2,000 a megawatt month. That market, we'll see in a couple slides, we think is going to like that $6, $7 range. So although it's going to cost more, if you need it, you'll be able to make more if you're longer and you're selling it. So I would say with the numbers, the excess that you guys have and what you're selling, it means that you don't have to purchase it, but you're not making a whole lot of money when you're selling just, like 100 kW at $2.25 a kW a month.
So the capacity topic has been pretty confusing, I think, especially for me. I've been through about 10 or 12 of these conversations, and I'm just now starting to get a pretty good grasp of it. So for people listening or anyone in the room, there's not really a clear understanding of what the value is of each megawatt of capacity. So it's your peak plus 15%. So let's say we had to buy all of our necessary capacity off the open market. What on our usage for the year, what would that number be if we had to pay for our capacity just straight from the open market? We didn't have generation, we didn't have contracts. What would that be in a ballpark, so we can just at least attain some kind of understanding of the value of what we're discussing?
Yeah, sure. So let me do some quick.
Sorry, I know it's annoying, but
Oh, that's okay. So if we just say, let's use 15 megawatts.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so we'll say you don't have any generation, you don't have any capacity, and we'll just use $6 a kW a month, and you need it for every month.
Right.
So it's 15 times 6,000 times 12. So it's 1,080,000.
holy cow, okay.
Yeah.
Some perspective kind of on
Yep.
the value of what we're talking about.
So yeah, so the fact that you have internal generation through your contracts, you have it through your power plant, that's a really good thing.
Sure.
Because the market is going up.
Did you use the $2 mark or the forecasted $6?
Forecast where it's going to
Okay,
6.
okay.
Yep. So if you want to just divide it by 3,
Sure.
and that kind of, yeah.
Okay, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Next one, please. Did I talk about the energy? I may have talked about. Did I talk about the energy? Did I not? I don't remember. I've got my sheets here. Okay, let's talk about the energy. So the energy is basically the physical electrons that get produced, and as you can see, your internal generation doesn't run a lot, not because it can, it's just this is a game of economics. So unless you guys are cut off the grid and you need to run, it's cheaper to purchase out of the market generally, or take your must-take contracts like GRDA and Buckeye. Anytime those units are available, you guys are committed to take those. And so right now, when you look at GRDA, and it's a workhorse for you guys because it's that base load unit that provides your energy 24/7, 365. But you may have a little too much at 3 megawatts. So in this next iteration, what we're trying to do is right size. And so for a city that has internal generation, you have other resources, what we've kind of done is saying, okay, maybe a third of your annual energy should come from GRDA. That number, and I'm kind of fast forward here to a couple other slides, but that number is around 1.6 megawatt allocation of GRDA. So anywhere between 1.5 and 2 would be kind of our recommendation, but it's really up to, obviously the city of Baldwin, what you want to do. But that 1.5 megawatt allocation gets you at around 30% of your annual energy needs. And that's, like I said, that's going to be covering all your needs when you guys are at your minimums. You guys are probably minimum load of what, Jeff, is it around three-ish? So it's going to be consumed every hour of every day. It's going to be under your load duration curve. So, and then when you stack your other resources on there, those are fine, but those are intermittent resources. So you got wind, you got solar, and then of course you got the market energy. So it's kind of the foundation, and that kind of leads into the to the resource pyramid, which is something that we've kind of used in the energy world for a while. But you can see that the base load is the foundation. If you're building a house, you want the foundation of it strong. So that's your base load, your 7x24 energy. Typically with base load energy, you'll see when folks, and I guess nuclear would probably be the easiest example. When you do a nuclear project, it's a base load project. You can't turn it on and turn it off. It's just on all the time. But the infrastructure and the capital cost to put in a nuclear unit is billions of dollars. So once you get the infrastructure in, then the energy might be $10 or $15 a megawatt hour. So that's kind of the easiest way. So as you move resources up the pyramid, Baldwin generation is a great example of your peaking, where it's virtually, you guys have had it in your stable for 50, 60 years, virtually paid off. A lot of it is, and you're bringing on some new, but it's a lower cost than what it would cost for a coal plant or a nuclear plant. But the energy's 10 times as expensive as what it would be from nuclear. So that's kind of a way to look at it. And then you got your WAPA that's somewhere kind of in the middle, where it works half the time, and it's kind of in the middle. So hopefully that helps a little bit. You can go on to the next one. I think there was a question at one of your work sessions about what did you guys pay in 2024 from the market, and it was $37 megawatt hour when you guys were short energy from the market. And so that's more during on-peak hours, just because you guys were covered a lot with some resources, but that's what the price was in 2024. So looking out 5 to 10 years, the energy market doesn't look great, and capacity market. So we're kind of at an inflection point with a lot of AI growth, a lot of data center growth, and utilities are behind on putting in thermal units. We've done a good job over the last 10 years with the tax incentives to put in solar, to put in wind, but we haven't done a lot of investments in natural gas. You can't build a coal unit. No one's building coal. And then nuclear is very difficult to build. So really the only option is for something that's reliable is thermal gas. That's behind. So the next 7 to 10 years don't look great from an energy and a capacity standpoint. So this one, if you go to the capacity, and we've kind of talked about this, we're at kind of the 225 market, and what we're seeing is more in that $6 market is where it's trending. So
Can you back up one?
yeah.
Come on, Neil. So I'm trying to understand this chart. You're showing, I think, the color differences, different years, obviously, and then the leftmost cluster is the 724 base load we're currently purchasing, correct?
So that is just this is just fixed energy. So if we were energy only with no capacity.
Okay.
So if we had the luxury of going out in like 2018, bringing on new cities, and the market was robust with energy and with capacity. So we were able to go to our partners and just get fixed energy offers at like $25. And now that market just for fixed energy, and this probably needs to be refreshed, is going north of $50 just for the energy, not the capacity. So if we were to go to one of our partners and say, I want a 7-year, a 10-year fixed energy deal that's every hour, every day, they would say it would be $55, somewhere in that range is where the kind of the market is right now. So, and that's just for energy.
And the other two clusters, 5 by 16 annual. That seems like it's fewer hours, but higher costs.
Exactly. So you're really getting a premium because those are considered your on-peak hours.
Okay.
So those are the hours where prices are the highest. So it's considerably higher.
So it's priced to the historical dynamic pricing.
Correct.
Or cost, if you will.
Yep.
Another question we've had for a while is, you know, he showed us what we paid for energy. I assume that was energy only on the SPP market in 24. I was out on the SPP website, and they are all kinds of historical data. I just didn't know what acronym to look for. There's got to be historical data that shows what the SPP market was every day for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have every day, but I have every year. So
the average for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's what that was. That's why I didn't understand it.
and I don't know if I brought enough copies, so you guys might need to share. I apologize. Jeff, I might need your. But essentially, if you have one in front of you, or you can share with your partner there. So this is the chart that it's in the presentation, but it doesn't have the SPP pricing in it. So looking at, I guess it's kind of a purple color, you can see that that's what the SPP day-ahead market averaged for the year at your guys' load node. So you can see that if you go to 2014, that's kind of the start of the integrated marketplace, and that's where the pricing becomes transparent. And you go to 2020, the difference is probably around between $3 and $4 a megawatt hour between the energy price that GRDA is offering and what the SPP market was. But you can see when we get into 2021, that the SPP day-ahead market for the year was $91, and that was due to 10 days in Winter Storm Uri. So 10 days impacted the price that much. We had hours where it was $4,500 a megawatt hour, and you guys are running generation. But that's kind of to show you the volatility of what can happen in the marketplace. And then in 2022, we were just in a really high natural gas period. So natural gas was 3 times, 4 times trading what it normally does. And then natural gas came down in 23 and 24, so we're in a much more lower environment. But you can see there were a couple of years there where the SPP day-ahead market was considerably higher than where GRDA energy was. And I think I told you all last time, or maybe another community, but when you get into these long-term contracts, you know, you're going to have years. I think we talked about Nenaskal Solar the same way. You were asking me about, you know, is this a winner? Is this a loser? I think you get into a long-term contract and you're going to have some years where it's going to be in the money, and then you're going to have some years where you're like, why are we in this? But over the course of 25 years, it's just going to be that workhorse that helps stabilize rates for your community, where you don't have to go to the market, go to the spot market, you know, send Jeff to the power plant to run generation because you're 90% exposed to the market, those sort of things.
It looks like on this graph, only 1 year out of the last 14 years was higher than what we've been paying on GRDA. Is that correct?
2 years.
What's the second year?
It would have been 22.
But that shows 55, 20, and is the orange 57, 51 what we paid?
Yeah, so that's capacity and energy. So we're comparing the 43.13 versus the 55.20.
Okay. Capacity adds about 20%, roughly. A little over 20%. Right? We're closer to 30%. So that goes to my question. I was going to wait till the end, but I'm going to ask
Go
it.
ahead. Yeah.
Why do we need capacity when we have all this generation that we purchased? Because back when we bought those generators, we were told that we needed the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
It would sustain us for a long period of time, at least I think it was 10 years or something, is what they were estimating.
Mm-hmm.
That capacity would sustain us. So that, I guess that's my biggest concern with GRDA, is if we're paying 25% more, it feels like we're paying twice for capacity. Because we already have our generators. Why wouldn't we just buy another generator instead of paying 25%?
Yeah, different. different products. So if you go back to that resource pyramid that's in there, I think it's, I don't know, a few slides up. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. So your peaking units are the top of the triangle. So that's where if you go out and buy a unit for say $2 million, you say $2 million, and we bought our capacity. That's going to run 1% or 2% of the time. So then you're basically gambling on the SPP market is going to be cheaper than what any contract I can get, and I'm going to bet that my units, when called upon to run for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a year, however long it takes to mitigate the the high natural gas price, high energy prices, it's going to perform well. So that's really what you're kind of gambling on. So they're two different type of when we talk about capacity, we're talking about capacity with relatively cheap energy, and then there's capacity with virtually no energy, and that's where kind of the Baldwin units come into play. They don't have a lot of energy. There's no energy behind it.
So how much do we pay GRDA roughly per year? I mean, it's got to be in the millions, right? I mean, total.
What was that, 5.6
Well, if
cents at 36 million kilowatt hours?
if 1.1 million comes from capacity alone, and capacity represents 20%, then there's your number.
So that's what I'm getting at, I guess. If we're paying 20%, I guess in my mind, and help me reconcile this, in my mind, if we're paying 25% more for capacity, and that capacity is $1 million per year, I mean, we're giving GRDA $20 million over the next 20 years of a contract.
Well, GRDA's portion of the policy would be 3 megawatts as it stands now. So it'd be 70,000 times 3. So it'd be
210,000.
yeah.
Yeah, there is again, there is a long-term commitment, and I'm not here to. I'm here to give recommendations, and you guys can really do what.
I know
you
you're
wanna do.
kind of our punching bag for this.
No. I would recommend it because anytime you go out and you get insurance, right? Like let's say insurance for your house. You could say, how much have you paid for insurance for your house over the last 5 years?
Well, let's not talk about that.
No,
Subject for me.
I'm just saying, right?
It went up quite a bit.
So and mine too. So let's just say we paid $15,000 over the last 5 years for homeowners insurance. You could say that why do we do that? Because the house didn't burn down.
Great. And I get that argument. Besides, isn't that also what our generators are?
If they had the ability to run all the time, every hour of every day at a reasonable price, then you could pair GRDA versus your generators. But there's a big difference in the price between what their system averages and what the Baldwin system averages. A big difference, like a huge difference, double or triple.
Okay.
Yeah,
But isn't capacity the ability to produce?
correct.
So I mean, it doesn't really matter how much they run throughout the year, as long as they can fire up and be on call as needed.
So there, when you sign up with GRDA, you're getting a guaranteed. It's there. So they're either they're producing it or they're buying it with the market. If they have a unit trip, they're replacing it real time. So it's a product that historically, if you look at that graph, it's been around $50 for capacity and energy. And like I said, some years and the genesis of why the city of Baldwin and 23 other KMA members got into it was because during that time period, the energy market was very high. And so GRDA was very economical when we got into it in the early 2000s. And then we had a 7 or 8 year period, it was still in the money, and then we got an integrated marketplace. And then probably a 7 or 8 year period where you probably could have done something cheaper with all the excess capacity and all the excess energy. And then we got to Winter Storm Uri, and it saved the community probably $500,000 by having the GRDA resource. So we would have paid $500,000 more for February without the resource. And then you get into 22, and it was considerably less than if you were just buying off the market. And then when you get into 22 and 23, where the natural gas market is kind of faded. But if we look out to 20 and 29, it's going to go up, and then it's going to go down, and it's going to go up, and then it's going to go down. And like I told you with an install solar, there's going to be times when you're like, why did we get in this project? And then 5 years later, you're going to be like, God, I'm glad we got in this project. I mean, that's just the nature of how it works. And that's just how it works.
I mean, so let's say we decided to go out and add another 3 megawatts of generation and increase our capacity, and we're not really interested in having any more capacity. Then I would assume that GRDA wouldn't be interested in offering us a contract, energy only, no capacity.
Correct. This is just a like in kind, so it's just an extension of what you currently have. So it's already kind of in the rates for 3 megawatts. So what we're saying is 60% is too much energy, too much energy. Right. So if we throttle that down to 35%. It reduces your annual bill to GRDA, still keeps you safe and secure for all of your 7x24 energy, still affords you to purchase off of the market a considerable amount. But I wouldn't recommend, going 80 to 90% into a winter with just Baldwin generation and solar and wind. I wouldn't personally, but again, we're just here making recommendations, and you guys can do as you please.
Okay. Is that it?
I think that's, if you go, let's go down. I think so we got the historicals in there, and then you guys have and then you've got, we've talked about that, I think, the characteristics of it.
You remind me what transmission rollover rights are?
Oh, so it's the, we talked about that bulk transmission, and so we have a transmission reservation that we put in back in early 2000s, and if we, a year out before your contract expires, through SPP, you have basically rollover rights. So you have a 3 megawatt allocation. If you wanted to keep your 3 megawatt allocation, we could roll that over with no additional cost in transmission. If you reduced it to 1.5 or 2, again, there would be no additional transmission study costs or anything like that. If you said you wanted 6 megawatts, then you'd keep your 3, and then we'd have to go and secure an additional 3 megawatts of transmission. And then, thank you. And I think we talked about that, and that's kind of that's what we used going forward. And of the 24 cities that are in the GRDA project, it's really all aboard. We haven't had any that we manage that have not extended it, but we have folks that had a 2 megawatt allocation, they've gone to 4. We've had folks that have had 3, they've gone to 1.5. We've had folks that had 3, they went to 2. So it really just depends on the community, what your resource mix is, and where you see yourself in the future. But it's really up to you. Again, we would, knowing we're in an inflection point and the next 7 to 10 years are going to be a little bit dicey, to say the least, we would recommend extending it, knowing that you already have in your portfolio. We're reducing it in half is kind of where that sweet spot would be, 1.5 to 2. We give you security, and if you go a couple further, kind of the cost estimates. So the city of Baldwin has very competitive wholesale rates, probably in the top third, I would say, of the members that we manage the power supply for. So that's an all-in rate. So if you did 1.5 megawatts of GRDA, that would kind of be your all-in rate. So that's your total capacity cost, your total energy, total transmission, and then our KMEA admin charge, which is voted on by all of our KMEA members. But if you go, that's the 1.5, and you can see that it starts at like 5.6 cents and goes to 5.9, and then go to the last one. So 2 megawatts starts at 5.6 and goes to 6.1. So you can see there's really not a whole lot of difference in the economics of whether or not you go with a 1.5 megawatt or 2 megawatt allocation. It really is maybe $100,000 difference when you look at it through the whole year. But it does stabilize a good portion of your energy, and that's where if there's something better out there, we would certainly offer it to you. But with fixed energy prices going to $50, $60, $70 just for the energy, and it doesn't look like there's a relief in sight for that. So, you're not paying the highest price, you're not paying the lowest price, you're gonna kind of hit the average over the course of 25 years. And that's really what it's done over the last 25 years, and that's what we anticipate the product to do over the next 25 years is just hit doubles.
So we talked a lot about the winter storm in Texas, Uri. Can you walk me through the economics, I guess, of that? If we were called to run throughout that event, our power plant, but we're still required to buy this GRDA, right? So tell me how that works out for Baldwin and for its residents. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. Jeff, you may have to help me with the how much. I had Tom pull some numbers, but let's say that you guys have. Let's say that you have 10 megawatts of internal generation. Okay, let's say you have 10 megawatts of internal generation. You can run. You have the staff, and prices get to $5,000. So you can essentially offer those into the market, or some of them are offered in the market. You have a couple units registered, and you have several units that are not registered. So let's assume that they were all registered with SPP, because that's where we think that it's going. So if they call you, you have to run to generate to support the grid, right? Okay. So if prices go to $3,000 or $4,000, all your units are registered, you're getting paid $3,000 or $4,000 to run your units. So if your production costs on diesel are $300, $250, what are they, Jeff? 200? Depending on diesel price, $250. So they're $250. So for every megawatt hour sold to the market, you're making a spread between your production cost of $250 and what the market is at $5,000.
Okay.
So, and then GRDA, you're still paying GRDA, and this is where it gets a little confusing to, but you have, so day ahead market, you guys we're bidding in your load day ahead, and then we are injecting these resources, WAPA, GRDA, Buckeye Wind, Marshall Wind, day ahead as well. They all have nodal prices, very similar. They can deviate based on congestion, but generally speaking, very similar nodal prices. So when you're buying your load at $4,500 a megawatt hour, and when you're able to get $4,500 a megawatt hour from the generators, GRDA is injecting down in Oklahoma at $4,500. So you're buying your load at $4,500, you're injecting the resource GRDA at $4,500, and then you're left with your bilateral price. So that's kind of the way the market works. So you're left with your $45. So you're getting a huge boost by injecting it down in Oklahoma when prices spike and go sky high. You're getting a huge boost when you run your internal generation because you're able to capitalize and really make huge spreads on that. And then your injection price offsets your load price, and you're left with your $45 energy price and capacity price. So that's really how it worked during Winter Storm Uri. So it was a huge benefit because you're seeing these bills from GRDA, like, why are we getting these huge bills? But they helped you tremendously offset a lot of megawatt hours in the market that were $4,500. So huge benefit.
Okay. Makes sense. I just didn't know how that all flowed through.
Sure.
Any other questions? We intend to act on this next meeting, so. All right. Well, thank you.
You bet.
Thanks.
You bet.
All right, next item, new business, renewable energy credits. Jeff, are you presenting on this? Yeah, if you could just explain to the council. I know we've talked about it, but it's been a while.
So I visited with both the utility committee meeting and the budget finance on different occasions about renewable energy credits. So currently with our renewable energy sources, we have not chosen to sell our RECs. That was a decision made back when we started the first project, and it's been steady ever since. There's been some talk about whether or not you guys would like to monetize those. The downside, if you monetize them and sell them, is that you cannot claim that you're using renewable energy. You're selling your right to claim that you are that your part of your power supply is coming from renewable energy. So I had John Seck with KMEA. They have not retired any. There's three things you can do. You can retire them. You can sorry. You can retire them. You can sell them, or you can bank them. As of now, they have banked everything. So meaning we can do either. We can retire them or we can sell them. The older the credits from the older years, the smaller the value of that credit. So as you see at the top of the chart there, the 2019 from the Baldwin Solars are only about 15 cents a rec. Today's market is in the $2 range. So if we were to sell the back half and the first half, you can see at the left, FH is first half and BH is back half. That's how the RECs are sold, is half of a year at a time. So if we were to sell some back half credit RECs for 2024, those RECs, then their value is approximately $2. So if we were to add up everything that we have not sold to this point that we banked, John is estimating that they have a value of about $29,000. And then going forward, if you wanted to continue to sell them, and he's just putting in estimated prices as to the value of them, but he's estimating 2025 projects to be, in the 230 to 240 range. So the newer the REC, the more value it has. So we're looking at probably about $10,000 per the first half and $10,000 for the second half. These numbers will change a little bit with the Nemascala Flats project, because that's another megawatt. So, and I think that the projected startup on that would be 2027. So there would be an additional approximately 725 every half of the year for that project as well. And then if you guys decide to do more community solar, then that's just another amount of RECs that are available. So really that's all the explanation I really have. I can answer any questions you might have.
So the projected values for 6 months?
Yes, first
So-
half and back half.
Okay, so about 21,000 a year almost.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Do we currently market the fact that we have renewable energy in our portfolio?
What do we get for?
I mean, do we actually market that to where if we sold these? So what I'm asking is,
What do we lose?
yeah, are we going to change anything if we sell them? Because if we're not marketing ourselves that way, we're wasting the money.
We do advertise on our website, I believe. Is that still in effect, that we're advertising what our community solar project, the output from our community solar, is that still on the website? It's not, okay. In the past, it has been.
Right, yeah, I've seen
And if we were to sell those RECs, we would have to remove that from our advertising.
We couldn't even mention that part of our power is coming from the solar. Is that the way that works? I mean,
Who regulates if you can
yeah,
say it
it's
or
like,
not?
Here's our pie chart. This much is,
Hoping Neil was still sitting there and whether he could answer that. I don't have the answer to that question.
Well, okay, so maybe, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
to me, it's some probably marketable stamp that you can use. We're a green city, or I can't imagine transparently showing what makes up your energy would violate this.
I know in the past, there's been large companies that were really pushing for green energy, and the idea that the communities they were going into were using green energy for part of their power source, that was an advantage to them. I know that's
Right.
one of the reasons. I don't know who would regulate that or,
Direct, please.
I guess my bigger concern wouldn't be how can we market ourselves if we choose to sell our credits. It would be, could we potentially be missing out on any grants down the road or anything else that we wouldn't qualify for because we are no longer a green city?
nothing that I'm aware of right now, but I suppose that's a possibility.
I mean,
Even if we voted to sell these, you can stop selling them anytime.
Correct.
So to me, I don't see a downside of selling them.
so let's talk through it. So when you sell them to a company who gets to write these off as credits. And so I guess there could be an argument made that if you sell your credits, you're allowing another company who purchases them to pollute more, I guess is the...
I think you're selling to a city that has no renewable energy, but they buy our credits and they can say they're green.
Can you choose who you sell them to?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think they're bids. Someone who wants them, the company that wants them will submit a bid to KMEA. KMEA would be our middleman in this process.
Well, we speak for the citizens. I wonder if the average citizen would rather have
$30,000
over the next...
over saying,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty confident in saying what our citizens would.
I don't know.
I agree.
I think it's important to have a green city.
Well, we're going to be the same.
We're not changing that.
We're going to be the same city before or after we sell them, whether we sell them or
Yeah,
not.
but if you can't claim that you're a green city, then you're losing that.
But is there any value for claiming it?
Right. That's my problem with it is I love that we can claim we're a green city, and I do think it's very marketable, but I don't know that we're reaping enough benefit from it to pass up. this amount
Well,
of
I
money.
city
think somebody
website.
moving here would appreciate that we're a green city.
I do know in the years past, that was one of the strategic plans was to increase our
Right.
renewable energies in our portfolio.
But we've done that.
It still is.
It's
Right,
someone
we're
else's. It's someone else's definition of green. Your city website could explain, "Hey, we're this percentage of green energy, and we sacrifice the other percentage because we want to keep your bills low."
But how low is it going to be with just $30,000?
What's a mill right now? What's a municipal mill?
50.
So that's significant.
But it's not like a half a mil every year.
It's a third of a mil.
And if we had more solar, it's just going to be more than 21,000.
Yeah.
Part of our strategic plan was also to be affordable. And adding more money into our reserves for our electricity. So hopefully come July when we take a look at it, it doesn't, it just helps that with the rates and everything, because that's what this will go to. This will go to the electric fund.
At our Public Works meeting, a lot of the heads were not really in favor of selling.
Why?
Julie, do you remember why? We didn't get too deep into it. We just asked their opinion, and they didn't really seem to think it was a very good idea at the time. But so if there's a way to push this another meeting, and then
I don't think there's any imminent.
yeah,
This is
I don't think we've
been banking.
jump into a decision tonight and talk about it some more.
I think asking KMEA, what are we missing? What are the unintended consequences? Because I'd rather act like a green city than necessarily
Say that
talk about it, unless the ability to talk about it's going to harm, our attracting new citizens and or grants. Because just doing green things is really what we ought to be mostly focused about.
I agree.
And we are. But what are we missing? So that's the question. And to your point, we can always turn it back on and stop, bank them or sell them. So if you sell them, we can So if you bank them, you can, or you retire them, you can still claim the green.
If you retire them, they're done.
They're done.
Yep.
Okay.
And none of ours have been retired to this point. They've only been banked.
Why?
So,
If there was such a commitment
I don't know.
initially,
Don't have the
then
answer
why
to
not
that.
retire them if you're committed? I mean,
I think it was a
it's a tough decision.
paperwork thing that didn't get done.
so hypothetically, I mean, we've banked them for what, 10 years or no, 5 years, and we're looking at potentially collecting $30,000 from selling them. So we could bank them for 5 years, continue to claim that we're a green city, and sell them in 5 years for $30,000.
Yes, but the value drops the longer you hold them, so.
Well, I know, but you get the best of both worlds too. I mean, if there's really a concern with not being able to talk about it, which I don't think the city's ever signed a gag order that we can't show on a pie chart that X percentage of our portfolio is coming from solar. I don't know. It's $30,000 going to our electric fund that we just increased our electric rates on our citizens for. So
I don't know, as far as, I mean, we're up here every meeting for the last how many months talking about solar and expanding solar and wanting to be more green. And that makes me feel good, and that we're doing our part in trying to be more green. I don't know that we need necessarily someone else's definition of that to cost us in the citizens $20,000 a year, in my personal opinion. But it's not even on our website right now. What are we doing?
any other questions for Jeff?
The only thing I'd ask is if they have opinions of why not. That's what we don't know. Why not? Because they might have the one why not. We'll go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And
Jeff,
I'd
do
like
you
to know
recall?
what those opinions are?
The only thing that came into my mind is that's a complete 180 of what the council at that time wanted to do.
Okay.
Does that say that's wrong? No.
I don't even remember the council at that time discussing this.
It was when both Buckeye and Marshall and the Baldwin Solar came on all about the same time, and I remember sitting in some of the meetings, and that was their desire is they definitely wanted to retire them,
Retire them.
retire them, not sell them.
But they didn't retire them. They banked them.
We did not ask KMEA to retire them.
But I still don't I personally, I mean, we were part of those and talked about it a lot in the utility. I cannot recall ever
I
discussing
have
that.
no recollection of that at all.
I trust you. I mean, I'm sure we did, maybe. Maybe I wasn't at, that specific committee meeting or whatever, but I cannot fathom how we can turn down $30,000 for our electric fund.
Over the next 2 years.
No, $30,000 for just this one sale, and then
Right.
$20,000 per year after this.
Right. Oh, I was taking the leftover and averaging 2 years and calling it. Yeah.
So, any other questions for Jeff?
I was just going to ask Glenn, do you have any recollection of
I do, and you're correct with it. The either the council or whatever committee was dealing with that, the recommendation was to retire the RECs at that point.
Yeah.
It was brought up at each one of those, the wind projects and our own solar.
Okay.
Each time we-
Well, the wind project was prior to our solar, though.
It was, yeah. That was 5-6 years ago, at least. Both Marshall and Buckeye came on, and the question was asked: do we want to retire? And I don't know if everybody understood. Because I don't think we really talked to like dollars and cents at that point.
Yeah.
And the market was probably a little bit different. The only thing to keep in mind going forward will probably be adding more solar. So what you're seeing now is what we'd get with our current solar. But
Yeah, it just
going
goes up from here, right?
if we add more in, and we'll have the Buckeye one, not Buckeye, the Pratt one coming on, and then possibly more internal solar, you'll see this number increase. So you're looking at possibly.
Glenn, do you remember from the utility committee, just because I wasn't there, why there was a concern with selling them?
I don't remember that. I remember from years ago. I don't remember yesterday saying that's the way.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? All right. Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion. Any further? Do we want to act on this, or do we want to hold off, I guess, for another meeting?
I would like to hold off one more meeting,
Yeah.
at least to gather more information and just make sure.
All right.
Jeff, can you check to see if there's anything we're missing with KMEA? on why we wouldn't sell these? I mean,
No, and there's no time frame. It's just,
Right.
yeah.
this has been talked about in a couple committees, for the last few months, and so I reached out to John to find out what the dollar amount is to that, and then he started talking about, hey, we can still sell the 2019 Rex, very minimal value, but we can still sell them. So I had to wait to get the numbers from him before we, formally brought it to you guys.
Yeah, can you just check with them, see if there's any unintended consequences, or if it's just that we couldn't say that?
Like as far as possible grants or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be my concern, yeah.
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Committee reports. Oh, Amber, we'll put this on the next agenda then. Committee reports, budget and finance, Scott.
We did not meet. Do we need to meet Friday? Do you have anything?
I don't think I have anything. Glenn, do we have anything for budget and finance right now?
Not right now, no.
So we got to make this solar decision next meeting, right?
Well, we got to make the GRDA
But
decision.
they're kind of interrelated.
Yeah, they're the same.
Interrelated. So we probably need to make sure we can gather all the information, pull it back together so we can maybe talk intelligently about it as a group next council meeting.
So should we meet Friday?
I think we need to meet Friday, just
I
make
agree.
sure that what we've all heard and then kind of synthesize it into
Numbers.
numbers. We can do this, we can do that. And there'll probably be 2 or 3 options we could do
Right.
based on GRDA size, solar size, and any combination of those two.
Okay.
We'll meet this Friday, 7:30.
30.
Come on, man. It's like, ever since Shay jumped on me, I'm scared to throw out a number.
Oh, man.
7:30.
They're fun. We all have coffee.
7:30.
Well, actually, we don't provide the coffee. You have to
No.
bring your own, but it's still fun.
That's so.
Second. Yeah, second floor of City Hall. 7:30 a.m.
Community development, Corey.
We did meet on the 24th. Had a few agenda items. Brought the St. Patrick's Day parade topic up. The chamber decided that the official St. Patrick's Day parade, the first official annual one, should be put off till next year, just for more time to prepare. This whole idea kind of got thrown out. Pretty recently, and so some other business owners and some people from the chamber independently talked about getting together and just kind of doing what they called a mosey. So not an official parade, just sort of have side-by-sides, golf carts, people decorate, not really have like, full-on floats or anything like that, and having a starting point, ending point with some festivities, etc. So just kind of wanted to bring that to the CDC, discuss what that would be like, and if there were anything that the city would need to provide or close down. The banners were discussed, the pole banners. I think they had $5,000 for the pole banners. They have 9 themes. They kind of be released 3 at a time. They all look pretty cool. They had some really good ideas come through there. So those will be kind of kicking off here hopefully soon. Discussed a facade grant. Lumberyard's going to do some tuck pointing in the front of their building. The golf course lease was discussed. Paul came at the meeting and discussed, just trying to get mostly some clarification on what the current lease says and possibly extending the lease so that they can maybe feel more comfortable investing in capital projects down the road. I think there was some concern that the notification, if the lease were to be terminated or what have you, was too short. And then we kind of talked through that a little bit. And I think there was some maybe difference in how it reads. So I don't know where we end up with that. I think
Glenn and I, and then we'll bring in Shay, are going to rework the lease a little bit, clarify the language, especially around the notification portion of it.
Yeah.
And then bring it
I think the way it reads right now is kind of daunting. It looks like maybe it's more teeth from the city than it actually is. I think it's more of just kind of a notification thing more than it is a termination thing. But yeah, I think, yeah, just go through it again and see if it needs reworked and reworded to make everyone feel comfortable and both sides. So that is all we discussed. Our next meeting is Monday, the 24th, 4 o'clock, second floor, City Hall.
Public safety, Susan.
We have not met. Our next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 11th at 4 o'clock.
Public Works, Julie.
We have not met either, and our next meeting is March 13th at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Strategic planning, Scott.
We haven't met, and we don't have a next meeting on the calendar yet.
City administrator, staff comments?
I stand corrected. We'll need our city attorney in the meeting. Our former city attorney. Met my match.
Yeah, okay, just one piece of good news.
You can announce it, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we did, we've been applying for another moderate housing income grant, and we did get notified Friday, we did get this. So this will be the third one we've had in about 7 years now, when that starts, then we'll have 4 different housing projects going at the same time in Baldwin City.
Awesome.
That's great.
Probably for the first time ever. So this will be mixed use. We'll have some, multifamily as well as commercial and single family. So
How much was the grant?
I believe it was around 500,000 for that. Yeah.
That's great.
It's up a little bit from, it used to be around 450 last time we got it. And we finally closed out the tenants to homeowners grant, which was going for a long time, and that was delayed because of COVID and many other things. And then I think it was about 7 years ago, we had another one where we did down payment assistance. So we've been done pretty well under that program. So that's all the help we can get here to build affordable housing in Kansas. So this one we applied for multiple times and finally got it this time. So I got it right.
Nice job.
Awesome.
All right. Council comments? The only thing I'll remind is work session on, let me pull up my calendar. March 25th at 7 o'clock for strategic planning. And I'm going to go ahead and just add the solar in there just in anticipation that we'll need to kind of discuss a little bit of that. That's part of strategic planning anyways. So I'm going to add strategic planning and solar in a reminder that our April meeting will be April 22nd. 7 o'clock in here for our kickoff for the budget. And then I will need an executive session with the council, myself, and our city attorney for about, I don't know, let's go 20 minutes for personnel.
Casey, what date in April did you say?
I'm sorry, April 22nd
Okay, thank you.
I will make that motion.
till 8:35.
Yes.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
I
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
really like this system we have with that.